Everyone, my name is Apex, and today we will be doing a top 8 list for the easiest comps to get high rated in 3v3 arenas in WOTLK Classic. So the two factors I'm going to be using to rank them is how easy the comp is overall, as well as how strong it is. So for instance, you might see a comp higher in this list that's not as good as one lower, but that's just because it's much easier to play. Therefore, it'll be a lot easier to get high rated with it.
Scooby-Doo, you feeling okay?
Up at number 8, we have Scooby-Doo Cleave. This is your Rogue, Paladin, and Discipline Priest. There is a lot of flexibility, though, with what the Paladin and Rogue can play. Basically, the Paladin can play Ret, Prague, or even Prot, although I do think the Ret, Prague version is much better, as you really need the support that those bring, as Prot doesn't really have the good off-healing that the other two do. Then for the Rogue, he can be Assassination or Subtlety, although I do think the Subtlety version is a lot better, because with this Shadow Dance burst damage that could come, plus the Ret/Prague's burst, it ends up killing a lot of things. And of course, you still have MS, which is the main thing the Rogue's bringing besides his CC. So the way this comp plays is the Rogue just runs in, saps somebody. If they manage to get a sap and then they're able to cheap shot someone or Garrow into an opener, then the Pally just runs in real quickly, and the Priest spam dispels. Maybe even open with a Shadow Fiend and then an MD if they can get a block or bubble really quickly. Then you can just kill a Holy Pally, kill a Mage like instantly. This comp's very, very explosive. It's mostly scary during the Shadow Dance, so it's going to be your first Shadow Dance, and then if they make it to the second, which they usually would, it can only really lose if the game's going somewhat long and they're able to peel, or if they're against like a melee cleave that's able to keep the healer alive, or just out pressure with the massive damage, like let's say maybe it's a warrior in a DK or something along those lines. This comp is very, very good, and it's not that hard to play because a lot of times your opponents aren't even playing. Your Priest is just dispelling everything they got, your Rogue's making two people not play, and your Pally's just pumping damage.
Wimp, oh, you think you can handle it?
Frost Mage, Shadow Priest, and Resto Shaman. This comp benefits from Lust a lot and can do insane damage basically with the Lust, as well as all the dispels. You actually have 5 dispels like global. You have Spell Steal, Spell Magic, which is 2, and then Purge, which is 2. So you can clean anybody pretty much instantly, so it makes it easy to swap. And then with all the slows and CC the Mage brings, you can pretty much keep one person CC'd, and sometimes you can even go with a Hex Poly and have 2 members of their team CC'd while you're just focusing one down. Of course, the one you're focusing can't really do much because he's slowed, maybe he's deep frozen, whatever. And then you have a lot of instant CC with Deep Freeze, Blanket, CS, which also has its own blanket. And then you can just do those into either Polys, Hexes, or Fears. And then you also have the range kick of the Shaman, which can help kill. So this comp's very strong. It's somewhat difficult to play in that you do still have to line up CC. However, the damage it can do and just the overall power level of this comp is very high. That's why I'm putting it at number 7. For number 6, I'll be pairing up 2 LSD and LSP. The only difference is the Resto Druid and the Holy Pally. Basically, though, they both play an Elemental Shaman, and then the lock is typically Destro. However, they can be Affliction, but we're just going to assume this is the Destro variant. And LSD version needs more CC coordination, versus the Holy Pally version can just heal pretty much non-stop and just maybe throw out a Hajj every now and then. This comp's just extremely powerful. It's one of the best comps in the game, both variants. And you can kill anything pretty much every 10-15 seconds with your Gas Vulcan Flag, Shadow Burn, Lava Burst, Chain Lightning, everything just hitting at the exact same time while they're all stunned with the Shadow Fury. So things die very quickly all the time. You don't even need Mortal Strike. And then you have Defensive Dispel with your Warlock, typically using Fell Hunter. And then you have Tremor, Wind Shear, Grounding, all the stuff that the Shaman brings, as well as just being another healer. And these two comps are a nightmare to deal with. It's still somewhat difficult to play, both variants, but the power level of this comp is almost the highest on this whole list, and that's why it will go on the 6th spot. Number 5, we have Kitty Cleave. This is your Arms Warrior, Feral Druid, and your Holy Pally. This comp basically just tunnels one target into the ground, typically a healer, but it can be a caster, sometimes like a Frost Mage or a Warlock or an Elemental Shaman. And essentially the way this plays is they just run in as fast as possible, just tunnel one guy with Mortal Strike, Unrelenting Assault, either cut their damage down a lot, or tunnel the healer, prevent him from healing, and take him out. With Freedom, the instant clones that the Feral brings, as well as things like SI, Barkskin, then your Warrior has Wall, Enraged Regen, and then a Holy Pally just has a ton of cooldown he can run. So you can typically kill almost any healer, especially like a Disc Priest, versus it takes much longer for almost any comp to kill your Holy Pally, as Holy Pallies can live the longest with all the cooldowns they have. Beast Cleave. This comp is typically a Beast Mastery Hunter. They can play Marksman as well, but Beast Mastery works much better with the way this all synergizes. You have an Enhancement Shaman and then a Holy Pally. You can play it with a Disc Priest, but it seems like Holy Pally is the better variant, much more resilient. And essentially, this team just runs in. The Shaman spams Purge the entire time, throws his 5-second kick on cooldown, either on a caster to prevent CC or just kicking every heal. Maybe they're tunneling the healer. So the healer really can't do anything with all the stuff on him. And basically they have 2 wolves out, and then the BM Hunter has his 1 super pet out, and that benefits from Bloodlust, and things are just dying. They're taking insane damage, as well as the Hunter providing the Mortal Strike with his instant cast aim shot in Wrath. It's not casted like it is in BC, and things will die. The main problem with this comp is after they've blown all their cooldowns at the beginning, you know, their wolves, their lust, their beast mastery, they kind of run out of gas. So if they don't get that kill early, or just right after all the cooldowns end, it's probably over. And also this comp seems to do a lot better in early Wrath compared to late. I think this is most likely due to the Beast Mastery Hunter not scaling as well with gear. For number 3, we have Vanguard's Cleave, popularized by the Ret Paladin Vanguards back in the original Wrath from Tichondrius. I actually had him on my server. I used to play on Horde Tichondrius back then, and I used to duel him all the time in Durtar, and he was amazing. He actually also raided a lot, so he had things like Shadowborn and just almost all BIS PvE gear you could get back then, and he would run this comp. It is a DK, a Ret Paladin, and then a Disc Priest. Has no MS, however, with the offensive pressure that the DK and Ret bring, and then you add that in with the spelling and MD of the Priest, allows him to kill things like Paladins very quickly, Holy Pallies included, as well as Mages. And basically they just do nuts damage, and then the DK has a lot of his own survival, and then the Pally brings a lot of support. They have double defensive dispel, which is huge, so he can help keep the Disc Priest up. You know, that way the Disc Priest can actually live through something like a TSG, because a TSG can't dispel Hand of Protection. So when you hit that, that's a 10-second hard defensive unless the warrior can get a Shattering Throw off, which is easy enough to disrupt with like a Fear, or Lossing, or Hodge, or Repent, or whatever. So this comp's very nice. It just is lacking the MS, which hurts a lot. So sometimes you're just out pressured by the enemy team. If they're running a Hunter or an Arms Warrior, that MS might be enough for them to out pressure you and take out your Priest. And this comp's very good. I wouldn't say it's as good as some of the top tier comps, but you can do very well with it. And for number 2, we have Turbo Cleave. This is your Arms Warrior, Enhancement Shaman, and Holy Pally. You can play also with a Disc Priest or another healer, but you really need to have a Holy Pally or a Disc Priest for the defensive dispel. Typically the Holy Pally is a lot better as they have the much higher survival. So you, the Arms Warrior or the Enhance, you guys can go off and take out whatever you want, while you don't have to worry about your Holy Pally staying alive, because he's not going to get soloed by a DK like a Disc Priest will, or at least not very quickly. So this comp essentially runs in, connects on somebody, makes whoever they're on a complete nightmare. That person, let's say it's a mage, they're not going to cast at all. They have wind shears coming at them constantly. They have the warrior's 6-second kick. They have like warrior stun, warrior's other stun, maybe a fear. Then you have things like the wolves, which can stun as well. And then it's hard for them to even be slowed, because Enhancement Shamans have a talent where their Earthbind pulses, which slow, will also remove all slows off of them. And then they have Spirit Walk, which they can use twice during their wolves, which will remove all slows and roots on them. So it's really hard to even get any distance. So as the Frost Mage, you're just getting tunneled in the dirt. Eventually you have to bubble. Then you're sitting in that, ice block, I mean. You're sitting in that ice block, and then the warrior starts throwing his weapon at you, breaks the bubble, and then the Shaman's purging off all your shields, so you don't get the Ice Barrier root, you don't get any absorption basically, and then you're very squishy, so they can just chop you up really quickly. You may have just gotten healed back up to full in that ice block, but then you're going to go right back down to nothing if they're able to stay on you. This comp is very strong. It's not as good as some of the top tier comps. However, the skill level required to play this comp is very low. I would actually say it's probably the lowest in this whole top 8 list, maybe next to Beast Cleave or Kitty Cleave, but it's still very strong. So I would say this will be one of your best bets, especially if you're like a newer player. And then for number 1, can we please get a drum roll, please, out there in the audience? And then, okay, some trumpets too. Thank you. Number 1 is ESG. This is your Arms Warrior, your DK, and your Holy Pally. The DK can even play Frost if he wants, but Unholy is really the powerful DK spec in this version of Wrath. Basically, the way this comp plays, the Arms Warrior and the DK run in as quick as possible, maybe sometimes even with Crusader Aura, so they get there quick. Sometimes they go under the map in Blade's Edge, or they take the other way around up the ramp, and they just connect on somebody, typically a healer. If it's a Disc Priest, they want to kill that almost always. It's very easy for them to kill Disc Priest. Both DKs and Arms Warriors can solo Disc Priest 1v1. When you get both of them combined, the Priest is so dead, even with peels. They need extremely strong peels. They can have another teammate, like let's say an Ellie Shaman, like let's say they're playing Ellis Priest, and the Shaman's just healing the Priest the entire time, but he'll still die easily through the two tunneling the Priest. So this comp, it's very resilient. They can basically run over anybody. The only thing stopping them from actually getting a quick kill is that something can be popping hard cooldowns like an ice block or a bubble, and then the warrior is the only one who can get it off, and sometimes he can't. So they have this strategy where they can kill your healer before you can kill them always, as the Holy Pally is resilient enough that the Arms Warrior and DK Pressure will be able to kill any other healer before the other team can kill the Holy Pally. That's a huge edge they have, which forces the opponents to play in a way that they typically have to be killing the Arms Warrior or the DK while peeling them. Sometimes they also go on like a caster, like a Frost Mage or a Warlock. They can kill them very quickly as well, even after the port. So a DK can just Death Grip the Warlock back, or the Mage just blinked away, Death Grip them back, or the Warrior just charges over and the DK quickly gets over there. They also have Freedom on their team with the Holy Pally. Great support with him. Sacred Cleansing is amazing. It helps keep the melee from getting slowed, rooted, stunned sometimes. And that really messes up the caster's game plan, because all of a sudden you're planning on getting a Deep Freeze Poly, and then because of Sacred Cleansing being so broken, you throw a Deep Freeze on your kill target like the Warrior or DK, and then it gets missed because that 30% miss chance, and everything falls apart. And then they're trading you into the dirt, doing insane damage, mortal strikes on you as well, and you are dying very quickly, or your healer. So that is why this comp is number one. It is also just one of the best comps in the game, period, through all of Wrath. So watch out for TSG, play this comp if you want, and that is my list. Thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe if this was helpful.